Hi, this is Amanda Dolan. Welcome to the Mental Society. I don't really have a set plan or what I wanted to say in this. Probably be pretty short. And I don't like how I said that. Hi, I'm Amanda Dolan. Welcome to the Mental Society. It's been not exactly sure what I'm sharing here. Hopefully I'll figure it out. This should be pretty short, but my daughter is getting ready to get her learner's permit, which I'm simultaneously super excited about and terrified. But in that process, there were a whole lot of documents that I needed to find, and there was one in particular that I couldn't find, and dug through everything and ended up in a box of things that I took from my mother's house several years ago. It was that process of she was moving and getting rid of things. And so I took these things. And as I'm looking through this box of things, I came across a letter that was clearly an assignment for one of my classes. That was a letter that 8th grade Amanda wrote to senior Amanda. One of the teachers was going to mail it to us and we'd get it when we graduated. And I was actually really excited to find it. And I started looking through it, and there was things about what was going on in my life and friends and what classes I liked and the boy that I liked at the time. I mean, it was interesting. And on there it said that it was edited by my friend Gina, and it was clear that she had edited it, and there were places that she had corrected things. So like, and it was great to like read. And then I got to the last page, and it was interesting because like it was a different pen. It was different than the rest of it had been written in. And I continued to read, and the short version of what this was essentially a suicide note. It basically said like, hey, if you got this because I killed myself, there was a reason, and that I've been struggling. 13-year-old, like it was 30 years ago, almost, exactly, like just under 30 years ago. And I wrote a letter, not just to myself, but like so intentionally included a piece to my family. I'm super emotional about this because 30 years ago, I was thinking about suicide, and it felt like it was a very real possibility, because if it wasn't, why would I have put that in this letter that I wrote at the age of 13? And now at 43, 30 years later, it makes me sad that I felt that way then, and that it took so long to get the care that I needed and that I deserved, even when I didn't feel like I deserved that care, because I didn't think I was worthy or good enough, or whatever that is. But yeah, like here I am at 43, reading a letter that I wrote at 13, and realizing that like I was struggling then. And then I think oftentimes we don't think about like really like 13-year-olds wanting to commit suicide, and that being like a really real thought. Um, and yet, like, there it was in blue and white. It was a blue pen, but that I wanted to die. And that makes me really sad. And I grew up with really like all of the things, right? Like I had a beautiful home to live in. I had parents that loved me and were in my home, and I had a great school that I went to. I had friends. I had all the things. And yet that wasn't, enough for me to not be suicidal. And that's the thing, is like nothing besides treatment was ever going to be enough for me not to be suicidal. And it makes me so sad for myself, and for the millions and millions of other people out there who are living with those suicidal thoughts sometimes, or all of the time living with those in your head, that the care isn't easier to get and more accessible. And this thing is like mental health care is health care. Like our brains run the rest of our body, right? Imagine if your brain stopped working, you wouldn't breathe, your heart wouldn't beat. And so our brain health, and our mental health is imperative for our quality of life, for how we experience the world, the ways that we are contributing to society and to our families. And I talk about like the title of this podcast is The Mental Society. And the idea, what my thought behind it was our personal mental health impacts every part of society, and every part of society impacts us and our mental well-being. And so, I, on the surface, had this society, like this, community that was really powerful and really present for me. And yet I was still struggling with those thoughts of suicide. My, like that, what do I want to say? Like the pain and fear and anxiety was so real. And I lived in some version of that for 30 years. And yet, like, it wasn't just that I wasn't getting the right diagnosis. It was that there were periods of time where treatment was not affordable. And then there were other periods of time where there just wasn't treatment available in the place that I was living, that was more rural at the time. And that's the thing, is we treat mental health and physical health as two completely different things. And yet there's so much overlap in both of those. You could talk to any doctor or any therapist on either side, right? And they'll tell you that stress and mental health affects everything from our blood pressure to pain management to our gut health, right? Like it's all interconnected. And so 30 years of not getting the health care that I needed. Like on one hand, like well, I guess it wasn't quite 30 years because it was almost 7 years. So 23 years of being really miserable. But then I didn't see my first psychiatrist until almost 2 years after I wrote that letter. And so I guess like all of this to say, like, what can we do to make mental health care really considered part of overall health care? What can we as a society do to make sure that kids, youth, young people, whatever, know that there's help available and that it's not normal, in quotation marks, to feel that way. And also like normalize it, right? That while it's not normal to feel that way and you can feel better, it is also something that many people feel, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that you shouldn't ask for help for because you're wondering if there's even help out there. But what that means we need to do is make that affordable and available to everyone. And you know, with Zoom and telehealth, like it's becoming more available, but it's not always affordable. And I've talked previously about, you know, the lack of ability to use insurance for mental health care. My psychiatrist doesn't, and I don't think he ever has accepted insurance. And I have to see him on a regular basis for my mental health. So I get my medications to make sure that nothing has changed, because there are side effects to those, and our mental health, like our physical health, can be fluid and things can shift and change. So, you know, I would encourage you all to really go out and see what resources are really available in your community. And then what you can do to, you know, make sure that those resources are available and people know about them. Because when we collectively ensure the well-being of all the others in our community and our society, we as a society are better for it. And it's not that it's my job to make sure that people find those resources, and it's not your job to make sure everyone finds those resources. The more places that we put those resources out there, and the more we talk about it and normalize it, the better we all are for it. So, you know, I don't know. Thank you for listening to me and hearing a little bit more about my weird mental health journey and finding random things. I really do want you to go out into your community, talk to the people around you, and find out how they're experiencing mental health and maybe what struggles they have in finding the care that they need. There's more information on the website, thementalsociety.com. You can also check out some of the other podcasts. There's one that I did, I think it's called All the Numbers. And that will give you some more information about how unavailable really mental health care is for us. So yeah, like go check those things out. And just remember that you're not alone. I felt so alone, but you're not alone. There's so many other people out there struggling. And when we're together, it makes that load a little lighter. You know, hope and help are all around you when you look for it. And so until next time, this is Amanda Dolan, wishing you good health, mental and otherwise.